Got some brand new polling numbers showing a tight race maybe shaping up for 2012. President Obama and Mitt Romney now neck and neck when compared side by side in the three key swing states considered vital to win the White House. Quinnipiac poll showing Florida Romney leads the president 45-42. In Ohio, it's switched. President Obama is up 45-42. In Pennsylvania, only 1 point separating them. Obama 44, Romney 43. And since 1960, no one has won the White House without carrying at least two of those three states. And that's where we bring in Juan Williams, Fox News political analyst, and Ford O'Connell, the former director for rural outreach for the 2008 McCain team. He's also chairman of the Civic Forum PAC. And welcome here, guys. Good morning to both of you.
Thank you for having me on, Bill.
Ford,
always a pleasure, Juan.
Ford, listen, you're a newbie, so you get the first shot. What do you make of this now?
I think this is a good sign for the eventual Republican nominee, because under no plausible circumstance can the Republican nominee lose Florida and hope to win the White House. The question is, can they pick up one of the two other states, Pennsylvania or Ohio? I think they've got a better shot in Ohio, even though the polls suggest otherwise.
Well, it's all hypothetical for the moment because we don't know who the nominee is going to be, do we, Juan?
No,
but it is true. You can watch the way Florida goes. You can watch the way Ohio goes.
Yeah.
And you can figure out who's going to win this thing.
Oh, sure. And as the strategists on either side are building their plans, they're looking at, especially Ohio, is absolutely critical to mount the sufficient number of electoral votes. But, I mean, from the Democratic perspective right now, nobody's at 50%. The president really has not launched a campaign, and you've had the Republicans out there launching all their criticism at him. So, you know, right now it's just an open field. I will say that given what happened this week in Ohio, where you saw Governor Kasich get his hand slapped, that gave Democrats a lot of pump. I mean, they think now Ohio's really back in play, where they were not quite enthusiastic about the prospects.
That was on the union vote, but on the health care vote, it went the other way, and everybody was they were kind of splitting the baby a little Solomonic after that vote.
Yeah.
But this is what the CBS numbers also show. The number one issue in Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, by a long shot, is the economy.
Right.
Ford, does that play into Romney's story?
I think it does, particularly as a business executive. You know, if people are standing at the end of the breadline looking for a job, they're going to be looking for change. And the question is whether or not Mitt Romney or the eventual Republican nominee can make the sell that they're better to handle the economy. If they can do that, we may well have a new president in November.
Well, Juan, how does the White House counteract that when the national unemployment mark is at 9%?
Well, I think, first of all, the numbers have been getting slightly better, and they've got to hope that what they see is a trajectory that has a continually improving economy, and that Americans will say this was a deep hole, and you can expect the rhetoric about the ditch in the car, and that the president has been slowly digging his way out. So that's the hope that they have there. I don't think they expect that the numbers are going to go down precipitously, but they do expect that they will see a trend line, that things are getting better. And if you look right now at the numbers at GDP, Wall Street, you take away the crisis in Europe, and things do look like they're getting somewhat better.
Well, we'll wonder now in these three states whether or not the voters feel that way. I mean, also in that polling, Mitt Romney, when asked who would do a better job in the economy, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Mitt Romney is a winner in all three states. Ohio, it's too close to call within the margin of error. Pennsylvania, what is that, plus or minus 2.5 percentage points. It's close there too, Ford. But voters at the moment likely see Romney as a business guy, and they're going to decide whether or not he's the right guy.
Well, that's exactly right. And Romney has to continue, hounding the economy and discussing how President Obama's not helping his case. If Romney can make the business sell and sort of overcome the anti-Romney voting bloc, he can become the eventual GOP nominee. And based on how he's handling the debates right now, sort of staying above the fray and keeping on President Obama, if he does that and he's the nominee in the general election, again, he could be the next president of the United States. We just don't know. But I will say one thing about Pennsylvania. Even though the polls are closer, from a GOP strategist standpoint, it's a lot harder to turn out voters in Pennsylvania for the Republican cause than it is for Ohio. But, it's one of these things that GOP strategists, when we get to the general election, are really going to have to figure out how to turn out voters in Ohio and Pennsylvania and not lose sight of Florida.
Well, that's true on both sides. Turnout becomes critical. If you get the voters who turned out in 2010, you get a Republican year. If you get the voters who turned out in 08, you get a Democratic year.
Fact.
But I will say that if Romney, you guys talk about Romney's business experience, that's a two-edged sword, especially in a state like Ohio. You get people saying, hey, that's a Wall Street guy. That's the guy who closes factories. And suddenly people, react to him negatively. And you don't necessarily want that in a time of Occupy Wall Street and so much anger at big banks and Wall Street.
And to that point, they're screaming in my ear, Juan, but to that point, you can see the White House playing this out now as a President Obama versus Mitt Romney campaign. So we'll see in the end.
They're looking for it, Bill.
You got it. Juan, thank you. And Ford, well done, man, okay?
Just wanted to say happy Veterans Day to our vets.